Hey there, Lisa here. Welcome to my channel. I hope you'll join me in my love of crafting and DIYs and hit that subscribe button. This video is part of the Boho Babes challenge, and it's kind of a lot of firsts for me. It's the first time I have my face on a flyer. It's the first time I've ever done any boho decor, even as much as I love it. And the third thing is I hit 500 subscribers. Thank you so much. When I started this channel, I was so disappointed that I didn't get the community tab so that I could talk to everybody. And so I'm really excited to hit 500 because I get the community tab and now I can chat. So anyways, I am going to have all of these Boho Babes channels linked down below. Be sure to check them out. Also, if you click the link and the playlist, it'll just walk you through. And if you go through and comment on all the videos, there is going to be a giveaway. Let's get into this video. For this project, I Boho-ified some bud vases I picked up at Target. I'm going to give you 3 options that are simple and inexpensive to add a little boho flair to these glass vases. Option 1. So for this project, you will need a glass bud vase, sun hat, Velcro dots, hot glue gun, and scissors. So I picked up this sun hat at the Dollar Tree, and the first step in this project was dismantling it. It's sewed together with like fishing line, similar to fishing line, and so I just took a pair of scissors and I only had to make one cut, and then it just completely unraveled, and this was really kind of fun. I did have to grab the scissors to get the ribbon piece off. Once I had it completely unraveled, I grabbed the string, we're gonna call it fishing line, and just started pulling, and it just pulled it completely out, and at the end I had this big ball. So now it's just like using ribbon. So I rolled it up like you would a spool of ribbon, and then I just used the ribbon that was on it to tie it together. And then when I was ready to use it, I just took and wrapped it around the vase. So crazy easy. So I just started, and that first wrap, I did wrap it twice just because I am not going to glue this to the bottle because I want to be able to remove it should I decide I don't want it on there for a certain holiday or whatever. And once I got it wrapped to the top, I grabbed the scissors and I cut it off. And then I used Velcro dots and placed one where it was there on the jar, and then the other on the end. And I did have to then undo it and just tighten it just a little bit so that it would stay on. But now I can easily unravel this and then put it back on anytime I want. And here is option 2. You will also need a glass bud vase, twine, 2 wooden beads, a wooden leaf, hot glue gun, and scissors. The first thing I did was just take a piece of twine that was the length that I wanted it for the bottle. I trimmed up the ends and folded it in half, and then I strung 2 wooden beads on it. This would probably be easier with a needle, but I was only doing 2. And then I looped it around the top of the vase to see how big I wanted that loop to be, and then I knotted it so that the beads wouldn't slide back up and make the loop too small. Then I attached the leaf, and it took me a while to figure out how I wanted to do this. I ended up gluing it. But, you know, I was thinking, well, should I put a hole in it? Can I tie it on? And I could tie it on there, but then it just kept slipping right off. So I ended up adding a dab of hot glue and then tying a knot around it so that the knot would stay glued. And then I repeated that same process and did another knot. Finally, I trimmed off the twine that I didn't need, and I just kept it pretty short. And then I unraveled the twine just for a little something extra. And then I hung it on the vase. For the third bud vase, we'll need a bud vase, and then I picked up a grass skirt from the Dollar Tree. You could also use raffia line, although I ended up gluing it in the end. A clamp, clothespin, or clip, just something to hold it to your pants so you can braid it, rubber bands to tie at the end of the braids, hot glue gun, and scissors. So the first thing I did was I just left it on the twine that it came on the grass skirt, and I just started braiding. So I took 3 sections and braided them together. And then once I had 3 braids, I braided those together so that I had a thicker braid. And this was time consuming, but you know, I did it in the car, Netflix, just wherever. And then I had this idea that I was going to sew it together. And so I grabbed a needle, and it was kind of hard to get through there. But I did it. I went through all of them, and then I went zigzagged on the back, and then I went back through. And so I sewed them together, but they wouldn't hold real tight. And since I didn't want to glue them directly to the bottle, I needed something that would hold tighter. So I grabbed the trusty glue gun. I wrapped it around to see where I would need to cut it. It was a lot longer than what I needed. And then I trimmed off the ends, and then I started gluing. And I glued each braid together all the way down. And then once I had them all glued together, I took and wrapped it around the bottle and glued it to itself. And then I removed it from the bottle and glued it better, as well as trimmed up any ends, cut the twine off, and just made it look as nice as I could. Now it serves like a cup koozie. I can just put it over the vase if I want to boho-ify and take it off if I don't. I decorated a planter, and this is what I would call experimentation, but it was kind of fun. I just wanted to see what this would look like. So I just got a planter from the Dollar Tree, macrame cord in your color of choice and size, a half bead, Mod Podge, a sponge brush, a hot glue gun, and scissors. So like I said, I was experimenting. So I worked with just one single strand of macrame cord. I worked with 3 braided together, and then I worked with 3 braids braided together. And I don't end up using all 3 on the pot. I end up only using 2, but depending on the size of your pot and what you're doing, you may like the other option. So I will show it to you. So I was going to do a big braid around the pot. So I took some macrame and cut it so that it would fit around the pot, and then I braided it together, and then I braided those 3 braids together. And then we did some just singular braids as well, because I wanted to try that. My daughter and I had fun sitting out on our back porch braiding macrame. And then I sort of just I just wanted to put them in the shape of leaves, so I just drew up the shape just so that I had something to work off of. And then I took Mod Podge and I mixed it with water. And then I sort of shaped my cords, the single braided as well as just the single strand, in leaf shapes. And you know, after doing this and seeing it done, I really learned so much, as we do when we craft, but I think this would be really fun to do like a full flower or something as well. And then I decided I didn't like the big braid on top of this small pot. So what I did was I went with, on one side, I did just the single strand leaves, and I simply hot glued them down in several places. And then on the other side of the pot, I took the single braids that I had done with the macrame. And I only did 2 of these. I ran out of time, but you can kind of get the idea. And so I glued those together, and then I glued them to the pot. And then I took a half bead and glued it in the center of each. And that's it. You know, it's a little bit, might be a little bit out there, but I just wanted something with some color and something kind of fun. And I mean, you could get so creative with this. For this project, we're going to make a little mini macrame hanger with 3 little planters. So for the planters, I used 3 mini fish bowls I got at the Dollar Tree. You will also need macrame cord, your color and size preference. A plunger handle works, or you can use buy a wooden dowel. Twine. Also, I must note the plunger handle is clean. I bought it from the Dollar Tree, so it's new. Twine and nautical rope. I used both. Handsaw, drill, tape measure, hot glue gun, and then also scissors. I love macrame and have always wanted to learn. And this is actually my first go at it. So I took to YouTube to find a super easy tutorial. I will link the channel in my description box. Okay, so the first thing you do is you cut your length of cord. I used the formula from the tutorial in the What's Up Moms video, and she said that you pick the length that you want. So I chose 24 inches. Then you add in the width of your pot, and then you add an additional 24 inches. So in my example, my rope I cut to 77 inches, and then you cut 4 pieces. Then you take all 4 pieces and you fold them all in half together, and then you knot them at the top, and this is where you're gonna hang your plant hanger. And then take and pull your strings down and make your knot as nice as you can get it. So the first thing is you need to decide where you want your top knots to fall. I did all 3 of mine a little bit different because I wanted them all to look different when they were hung together. And you knot 2 together, and then you knot the next 2 together, and then 2 more, and then 2 more, until you have all the strings knotted in 2s at the same height. Next, with 2 of your knots side by side, you take a string from each and go down to where you want that knot to be and tie a knot there. And then you're going to repeat the process going around in a circle. So after I did the first knot, now I'm going to take that string from the one I just knotted, the other string, and I'm going to knot it to the knot next to it, only 1 string. And then you take that 1 string and then knot it to the other. And I'm gonna show you in another clip, I do another one or part of another one with it hanging up on the wall. And I think that the view might be a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so now I'm just making sure that they all look, you know, semi-close. And then you make sure that your bowl is gonna fit in there. And you tie a knot underneath where the bottom of your bowl would sit. And then you put your bowl in there, and that's it. I really want to try some more complex macrame now. Okay, so here I am showing you with it hanging. So I'm gonna do those first knots because this is the part that was confusing to me, was once you did the first knots. And so then I'm gonna take 2 strings, 1 from each, and knot that together. And then as you see here, I just either go left or right, whichever way. And then you do this process until you get all the way around. And here are my 3 hanging there. Ignore my 2-tone wall there. It's embarrassing to let you know how long I've lived with just the blue stripe. I need to finish painting it blue. Now, if you're using the end of a toilet plunger, you are sort of limited to that length. And I was going to cut off this end, but it was going to make it too short and I wasn't going to be able to hang all 3. So we just took twine and wrapped it in the grooves. And then I don't have video of this, but my husband drilled a hole at each end so that I could hang it with nautical rope. And then he used a saw and just sawed a slat in 3 places so that the macrame, top of the macrame hanger would sit down inside so it won't slide around. He also took the nautical rope and went through one of the holes and knotted it. And then we will do the other one when we hang it up so that we know what length we want it. And then to finish this project up, I just took and using a little bit of hot glue, I added twine to the ends. And then I went back over what we had done over the grooves just to thicken it. Then I repeated that process on the other end so that they matched. And then after I had it hung the way I wanted, I trimmed up the ends. For our final project, we are going to make a wreath. Supplies I used for this project include a wreath round, pampas grass, eucalyptus, florals, and then hot glue gun, wire cutters, and floral tape. My pampas grass was really tall. It was so pretty, but I don't have anywhere to put anything this tall. So the first thing I had to do was cut it down into a size that I could work with. Then I took the cut pieces and I glued them to the ring. And then I grabbed some floral tape and I just wrapped it around what I had glued just for some extra hold. And then I grabbed some eucalyptus and I placed it where I liked it and hot glued it down. And then I did the same thing I had done with the floral tape, only this time I added a little more hot glue just to give it a good strong hold. And then I took my florals, chose what I wanted, and then I cut them down. And then using hot glue, I placed them where I wanted. You know, I have never made a wreath on these thin rings, and it was a little bit of a challenge finding a spot to glue to. So I sort of had to glue it to itself at times. And then I took another piece of the pampas grass and I cut it in half just to add a little bit extra on each side. But first I put a little bit of floral tape on the end that was cut so that it wouldn't fray. And then I glued those. And then I added a little bit more eucalyptus. And I just, with the hot glue gun, did a dab and then stuck the eucalyptus in there. And then I apologize. Somehow I lost the video on this, but I cut a strip of this fake leather from the Dollar Tree and I hot glued it together around the ring. And then I took and just hot glued the top over to make a loop. And that is it. These were really fun projects to make, and I'm so glad that I got to be part of this challenge. I really wanted to have everything potted and super pretty for you, but I just couldn't quite get it done. But hopefully you get the idea and that this will spark some ideas in you. Do you guys have a favorite? How did I do for my first shot at boho? I'd love to hear all your thoughts and comments. Be sure to check out my description box before you go and check out the other channels and comment on everyone else's videos to be entered into the giveaway. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch this. I do hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, if you wouldn't mind giving a like, dropping a comment, and hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. Have a wonderful weekend.